Hello, I'm Kyle, and today we'll be going over the installation of the GTS. We'll start the unboxing by pulling the lever out, as well as this cardboard box to the front that has most of the installation materials. Third will be this large cardboard portion, and fourth will be the last piece. We'll start with this cardboard piece first. The smaller of the two sections you can roll out and then pull the chassis and escutcheon out from the front. The second cardboard portion will require a cutting utensil. The tape along the top seam and bottom seam will need to be cut. From there, peel open the box and fish your lever through. Last is the lever, which is easy to just pull out of its plastic, and the cardboard box set contains most of the installation materials. You should have a battery pack, a latch, a set of keys, a screw pack, and a strike. After pulling the inside and outside trim out of the bags, we will start following along with the installation instructions, starting with step 1, which is verifying the handing. The handing of a door is the direction it swings open and which side of the door the hinges are on when viewed from the outside. If the handing for your lock is not correct for the opening it's being installed in, please refer to the back of the installation instructions, which will show you how to re-hand the lock. Step 2 of the installation instructions is to prepare the door and install the latch. The door prep is found on our template that will show you all of the holes needed to be drilled into the door to install the lock, and the second portion of that being installing the latch. When installing the latch, it's important to remember the radius, or the rounded portion of the latch, will need to face the door frame. We're installing this for a left-handed lock, so when you put the latch into the frame, you'll want the radius, or the rounded portion, to be facing the frame on this side. After you've put your latch into the door prep, you will need to use a combo screw to mount. It's important to note there are 2 combo screws in the screw pack. You will want the smaller diameter head for the latch. It's always important to remember when installing door hardware to use a handheld screwdriver and not an electric screwdriver or impact gun. Using those devices could cause you to strip out your door or damage the door hardware itself. When installing the latch, a little helpful hint is to not drive the screws in the whole way. This will allow the latch to move a little bit when installing the chassis and allows for easier mating of the two. Moving on to step 3 is to install the chassis and outside trim. To install the chassis, you need to remove the inside escutcheon from the back plate. To do so, you must first remove the battery cover, located at the bottom of the escutcheon itself, with a Phillips head screw. After the battery pack is removed, to finally remove the escutcheon off, there's 2 screws, Phillips head, on the inside that you can now remove. The next part is to install the chassis from the inside of the door. Being that this is a left-handed door, this is going to be your outside, this side will be your inside. When installing the chassis, it is important to note the retractor here has to thread into or engage with the latch when installing through the door. The next part of step 3 is to install the outside part of the escutcheon. Feed the reader wire through the larger hole at the top of the door. It will go through the inside trim underneath the circuit board and plug into it. wire is installed, push any excess wire back into the door cavity. On the rose, you will notice there is a marking that says latch bolt with the directional arrow pointing to where the latch bolt should be. You want to make sure that that is aligned properly. After installing the reader wire, you can use the 2 through bolts to install the chassis to the outside trim. After installing the chassis and the outside trim, it's important to know now that you can tighten up the latch bolt mounting screws. Moving on to step 4, we're going to reinstall the inside escutcheon. That is the piece we took off earlier. That will set on like so and attach with 2 Phillips head screws. Step 5 of the installation instructions is to install the batteries and inside lever. We use the batteries that are provided to install into the battery pack here, being mindful of the positive and negative side. Easier when you do the outside 2 first, followed by the inside 2. After the battery is installed, wait 15 to 30 seconds. You should hear an audible beep, followed with a green light flash on the outside trim. Batteries are in, and so we can now install the cover plate, and single flathead pointed screw. Moving on to installing the inside lever, there should be a Allen hex set screw already partially started on the lever. You can use the Allen wrench that was provided in the tool parts kit. When installing the set screw, you want to make sure it is below flush, meaning that it cannot be felt by your finger. Now that the lock's been installed, it's time to test the functionality of the lock. We'll start with the inside trim, verifying that you can retract the lever until it stops, and verifying that the latch is fully retracted. The second part of check of the function is verifying that the keys work. Insert the key on the outside lever, turn, again making sure that the key stops rotation and that the latch is fully retracted. The third function check is with the app on your phone, verifying the lever is in the locked position. Also says locked on your app. If you click unlock, you should see the green flash. You should also be able to hear it. Your lever will become unlocked. Flash of the green light and the audible sound should mean that you're back in the locked position, and note that your app also identifies it as being locked. Now we're going to go over the handing instructions. To do this, you want to first remove the rose plate mounting screws and then the rose plate. The next step is to unplug your motor connector. Feed motor connector and wire back through the wire chase slot, and then we'll rotate the chassis a half turn. The next part will be to disconnect the tape that is holding on the battery pack's power cable. This will now allow you to remove the rose. Now that your rose plate is off, you can rotate the inside chassis 180 degrees. You'll notice now the retractor is facing the opposite direction. When installing the rose plate assembly, we're going to make sure that the arrow now is facing the same direction that the retractor is. You can reinstall the battery pack power cable. Now that we have the rose plate back on, we'll reattach it with the mounting screws. Now that the rose plate is attached, we want to run the motor wire through the back slot of the mounting plate. And reattach it in the front. Once the motor wire has been reattached, be mindful of keeping it above the mounting post here. It'll keep it out of any pinch hazard. And then your lock has been rehanded.